All right. Business Unity South Africa is calling for the Unemployment Insurance Fund to be placed under immediate administration. BUSA says UIF is putting workers' livelihoods at risk after allegations of corruption and systematic dysfunction. It says workers who are desperate to access money in times of need are left stranded because of the dysfunction at the UIF. Now, the UIF is a social security fund raised from a payroll tax that provides unemployment and maternity benefits to workers. To elaborate on this matter, we are joined virtually by BUSA Social Policy Manager, Sanelisiwe Jantjies, as well as the UIF Commissioner, Teboho Maruping. I'm hoping that everybody's sound is okay, so that you can hear us. Teboho, good morning to you. Okay. Sanelisiwe Jantjies, I think we have got you. We're still waiting to get Teboho up and running. It's good to have you, Sanelisiwe. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Leanne. I'm hopeful you can hear me.
Good, I can perfectly. I'm so glad. It also gives us an opportunity perhaps to outline some of the issues that you've highlighted and perhaps tell us how dire the state of South Africa's unemployment insurance fund actually is.
Thanks. So, on behalf of employers, Business Unity South Africa is in a unique position where we're able to engage with government as well as organized labor as the core stakeholders in South Africa's social dialogue platform, which is NETLAC. And through this mechanism, we have been able to engage with the UIF officials. And calls, honestly, for the UIF to be put under administration should not really come as a surprise to the UIF office. For the past 3 years, social partners, including business and organized labor, have raised concerns about failings within the system, and its administration committed to ensuring the resolution and service delivery to workers, because at the core and the center of this call is the concern for workers who are destitute. Many offers of help have come aboard, but these have all been ignored by the UIF, and you would have seen that recent media coverage indicates that the UIF continues to operate in denial, lacking accountability, even the acknowledgement of the challenges internally and the shortcomings within the organization. We can acknowledge that there have been measures that have been put in, but the current failure to accept the status quo is no longer acceptable, coupled with the recent allegations of fraud and serious mismanagement of funds, has led to the calls from all stakeholders to have the organization put under immediate administration. For anyone who's applied to the UI recently, they will tell you of their frustrations, whether they applied to the Labour Centre, which required them to stand and spend days in long queues, or who use the online application by the new e-filing system, my apologies, and the result is the same. The same frustration, delays, lack of responsiveness, and generally being pushed from pillar to post, often expected to submit the same documentation time and time again. And the UI is intended to be a support system for workers during times of financial distress, and it fails, unfortunately, on its mandate. And if an applicant is lucky enough to receive a payment, it's usually long delayed, and it's common to hear maternity applicants confirming that they finally receive their benefits when their children have started. We acknowledge that some delays may in fact be due to user error, an applicant not submitting the right documents, or perhaps an employer whose record keeping is not updated. But this is certainly, it's not certainly as the UI would have us believe, that the reason that beneficiaries do not receive timely payments. And the real problem lies in the fact that claims are still processed regardless of the channel the application was made, despite modernization attempts. The core problem is the inefficient administration. And it's quite disheartening and disappointing that social partners have been engaging in very, very good faith for the past 3 years, but we haven't really found any joy or received any help.
All right, so I'm happy to announce that we actually do have Sanelisiwe Jantjies with us now, and he, of course, is the Commissioner Teboho Maruping from the UIF. Sanelisiwe, thank you for giving us just that output from the BUSA side. But now let's talk to Teboho. There are a lot of allegations that have been made against you, and business is calling on you. They've called you out for failing to fix the problem at the UIF. Let's get a response from you. Mr. Maruping, are you able to hear us? All right, let me try one last time. Mr. Maruping, are you able to hear me? Can you hear my voice? No, doesn't look like it. We'll continue to try, because it is very important that we do get their response. I mean, Ms. Jantjies, in terms of engagement with the UIF, what kind of engagement have you had with them? I mean, what are they saying? I mean, this is a very serious issue that we're dealing with here. I mean, these are affecting the lives and livelihoods of millions of South Africans. So have you engaged with the UIF, with government, to try and resolve some of these systematic issues and dysfunctions that they're having, and the allegations of corruption?
Definitely. So, I mean, as far as I can speak on the engagements that we've had, as I said, through the social dialogue platform in South Africa, NEDLAC, we are in the unique position, as well as with organized labor, which is convened by COSATU, to sit with our government counterparts, through which we do have a fairly good relationship. That is something that I would be remiss not to mention. And through that mechanism, we have a very structured approach in terms of what we deal with on the UI committee, and it's split into several committees. So, for instance, we've got committees that deal with the special schemes, which would be maternity benefits, the COVID PERS schemes, and we've got several of those collapsed into one sort of stakeholder process where we meet continuously with the UI officials. What we found, though, and the frustration which has now we are being forced to go public with, is that despite several promises, also despite several commitments that have been made to make good on the promise to the social partners, to critically look at the inefficiencies within the system, none of this has been happening. Instead, the frustration that social partners in their own silos and workers and employers are feeling is the frustration that the whole of the task team that is tasked with dealing with these issues is feeling. We find that in several meetings there's inaction, or we are not speaking. We would be speaking to the right officials, but we're not getting truthful answers, which is why both Business Unity South Africa and COSATU have found it very important to try and resolve these matters and try and get an immediate response that is going to give real and concrete results.
So, I'm reading here on our SABC News website, which is reporting, we're saying that the Employment and Labour Minister, Thulas Nxesi, has dismissed these demands to place the UIF under administration, besides this mounting criticism. He's gone on to basically tell us he has emphasised the government's commitment to address the issues plaguing the UIF rather than resorting to place the funder under administration. He insists that practical solutions are under consideration. That's the response from government. What do you make of that?
So, I mean, practical solutions have been offered, Leanne, I can tell you that much, especially through the NEDLAC mechanism. We've written to the minister multiple times, through which we have received an acknowledgement of receipt and the same sort of commitment that we are heard, except we haven't received any communication or at the request of a meeting, those have all but been ignored. The solutions, the concrete solutions that have been brought forward by the social partners through the current mechanism have not been attended to, which is where we feel highly disappointed and disheartened. And the appeal to the minister would be that we look at the facts that are currently sitting before us, as well as to also plead our case that we have tried all of these mechanisms, as well as tried to put forward all of these solutions, and we have not found any joy.
How many people are we talking about in terms of those that are not getting UIF? I mean, we know the amount of money that can generally be paid out to the UIF, but as we stand right now, how many people are we dealing with that as far as you know, are not being paid due to all of these issues we've been speaking about?
So, well, I'd firstly have to start by acknowledging that payments have been made. There are payments that have been made, and I think the Commissioner has also been very clear about that in the media. But the payments that are outstanding have been outstanding for a a number of years now. I'll leave the Commissioner to give you the actual figures that we discuss within the NEDLAC institution. But for instance, when we talk about, say, for instance, CCMA TERS, we recently have been speaking around the number of 87,000, and that is only one special scheme. We're not speaking about the rest of the figures. So I wouldn't like to delve into the exact figures.
It's frustrating. I can see Teboho's face here. I can see it, but we just can't hear him. And that's why we will give him a chance to respond to all of this. I'm glad he's listening. We cannot pick up his voice, unfortunately. So please, don't go, we will get your response. It's not fair right now that we just can't hear you, Mr. Maruping. I'm so sorry for what's going on, but at least it's giving you an understanding of what's being spoken about. So, Ms. Jantjies, again, so we know that payments are being made. That's the reality. Why? Except for those that have been delayed. And the why, I need to ask Mr. Maruping why. I can't ask him that, though. But what I ask you is, putting it under administration, explain to us how that's going to rectify the situation. Because would this not cause more chaos? And people that are getting paid, won't this affect them as well? Why not sort of go with what the minister is saying? I know that you've heard all of this before and nothing has been made, but perhaps we always live in hope, and I keep saying that, but perhaps maybe this will be the moment that things will be fixed. Do you think going into administration may just cause more problems?
Leanne, that may very well be so, but our intent in calling for the entity to be put under administration is that our hope is that this will ensure that the UIF has a wake-up call, because not to belabor the point, and I'm quite sorry that I seem to be repeating myself, but we have exhausted all efforts. We have tried all the solutions that are being put forward by the social partners. We have listened to the UIF, and we also have taken into account their sort of access to remedy. But none of this is happening currently. And to be quite frank, and also to be quite honest, we find ourselves in a situation where the audience, which is organized business and organized labor, just feels that these half-truths and these disrespecting of an audience that is trying by all means to work in good faith with the government of South Africa is just not forthcoming. So I think what I'm trying to illustrate is that the call for the administration is the very, very last resort.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting some responses here from social media as well that are speaking. This one from Unity and SA saying UIF is a disaster. The minister should be fired based on the dysfunctional UIF. People sometimes wait for months or even over a year for payments. What you've been saying, people sometimes do not even get paid and simply give up. UIF should be optional. Let private companies provide insurance. That's just one of the many responses we've gotten to this. BUSA is also claiming, and we've got 1 minute to the news, you're claiming that billions of rands have also sort of, you should be allocated to workers in distress or at risk. Can you explain that to me? Because that's quite an allegation as well. How are these billions of rands at risk?
So when we speak about that, we're speaking about agreements that have been made by all parties. And there's an intention from the government and the UI to start an unbundling process. And to all the good intentions that the government does have and the UI does have, the social partners have been broadly supportive. The issue here is that through the support, we're not really finding that there has been any movement to start the implementation of these access to remedies. So what we are saying then is that we are asking for these access to remedies to find, sort of real and concrete implementation. What we're asking for is that the core problems that are within the UIF, and all of these, in our humble opinion, are administrative issues.
Okay.
The problem is that I think we're out of time.
Yeah, we are unfortunately out of time, and I do
understand.
Yeah, I know that we're going to follow up on this, and I'm also hoping that I'm going to speak to the UIF after this, Mr. Maruping, who's been patiently listening and holding on. So he's got all the information. We want him to reply. So, but thank you so much for giving us that background. Sanelisiwe, Jantjies, BUSA Social Policy Manager, talking to us here.